December 6, 1865. Nearly 3.5 million African Americans in the U.S. became free from slavery by the passing of the 13th Amendment. Although they were released from their physical chains, many of our people remain in energetic bondage till this very day. This energetic or spiritual bondage often manifests itself as the inability to cultivate emotional equanimity, mental clarity, discernment, and financial stability for oneself. In this video, we will discuss tactics used by the powers that be to keep African Americans, Africans, and the entire African diaspora in energetic bondage. Additionally, we will discuss how you can free yourself from it. Anyone from any ethnic background can use this knowledge to free themselves. However, I'm specifically addressing this video to African Americans, Africans, and potentially the entire African diaspora. The first thing you need to understand is that energetic, aka spiritual bondage, starts with the mind and the control thereof. If someone has the power to wipe away your entire history, essentially robbing you of your identity, and then inserting a new identity into your mind that is rooted in self-hate, anxiety, and limiting beliefs, then you do not have control over your own mind. You can be easily manipulated to believe whatever I tell you about yourself and who you are. To have control of your own mind and thoughts is to know oneself and to love oneself. It is only once we reach self-actualization that we can be proud of who we are authentically and put away the self-hating identity given to us by the oppressors. Additionally, it is only once we reach self-actualization that we can practice sovereignty, which is to be in a self-governing state and to have control of one's own thoughts and choices. If you lack identity, I can tell you that you are dumb, poor, and your ancestors have always been that, and you will believe it. I can sell you a dream that a white man dressed in a robe will come and save you, and of course, you will believe it. I can tell you that you like to eat fast food, pork, and all sorts of abominable, unclean things, and you will believe it. I can tell you that you are naturally fat, and your ancestors have always been fat, and you will believe it. I can tell you that you are the lowest earning group in this country, and you always have been, and you always will be, and you will believe that. I can tell you that your children naturally have higher rates of ADHD and illiteracy, and it's your fault your families have fallen apart, and you have the lowest marriage rates, your dark skin is ugly, your big nose is ugly, straight hair is superior, lighter skin is superior. I can tell you all of these things, and you will not only believe all of these lies, but also you will act on them. You will start to do ridiculous things, like spend all of your money on material things to make yourself look worthy on the outside, but the truth is that you lack worthiness and esteem on the inside. You will start to spend billions of dollars on straight hair to make yourself fit the beauty standard of your oppressors. You will gravitate toward partners with lighter skin or a completely different ethnic background to ensure that your kids don't have your dark skin, big nose, and coily hair. If you had esteem, you wouldn't need designer things, straight hair, white partners, or mixed children to give you a sense of worthiness and belonging. All of these beliefs create energy blockages that keep you in a low vibrational state and prevents your energy from flowing freely. So what liberates us from energetic bondage? Self-actualization that only comes through sovereignty and authenticity. I will now break down self-actualization, sovereignty, and authenticity and how they relate to your liberation. To reach self-actualization is the highest level of psychological development in which a person achieves meaningful goals that align with personal values and aspirations. It is synonymous with reaching crown chakra activation, in which a person connects to the divine and realizes their nature through cosmic consciousness. How can a person ever realize their true nature activating the crown chakra if they don't know who they are? To reach self-actualization, a person must first have their basic needs met. This includes food, water, and shelter. These are all things lacking in African American communities, and that is by design, not by coincidence. The oppressors must control the income of the majority of African Americans, because if you were ever given the ability to control your own basic needs, then you could potentially make it to the latter stages of reaching self-actualization, which is safety, meaningful relationships, and esteem. Without basic needs, one cannot feel safe. Without safety, one cannot develop a sense of belonging and community through meaningful relationships. And without meaningful relationships, especially familiar relationships, one cannot have a healthy sense of esteem. This is a very concise explanation using Maslow's hierarchy of needs of how African Americans are kept in mental bondage. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is nothing more than a watered-down version of the chakra system. I will insert a diagram of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and the chakra system so that you can see just how similar they are. Using these diagrams, you can see that by limiting the basic needs of an entire racial group, one could keep them in the shadow of the base chakra, also known as the root chakra. Here, one can have a hell on earth type of experience. This is where one may face food insufficiency, financial lack, and inadequate shelter. All issues that we see running rampant through African American communities. Most African Americans have been taught through Christianity that you can only go to hell after physical death, but that is a lie. Now I will discuss sovereignty and how that relates to your liberation. To experience spiritual death is to lose your sovereign connection to the Most High God. It is to fall from the crown chakra consciousness down to the base chakra, which is lack. Instead of having nirvana and living a heaven on earth type of experience, you have suffering and a hell on earth type of experience. Truly, I tell you that you can be alive here on earth and be in hell while sitting next to a person here on earth who is in heaven. You do not have to physically die to experience heaven or hell. Similarly, you do not have to physically die to experience death. And just because you are alive does not mean that you are living. The death spoken about in the book of Genesis is talking about a spiritual death where we lose our connection through the source cord which connects us to Most High God. It becomes severed when we disobey our God by participating in low vibrational behaviors such as eating unclean food, idol worship, etc. This is why the book of Genesis says that Adam died after he disobeyed God. But as you can read for yourselves, he didn't physically die. He spiritually died. He went from crown chakra, free-flowing in the Garden of Eden, where he had no anxieties, no worries, and everything was abundant and provided freely to him. He went from that to the base chakra, where he experienced suffering. He went into the mountains and had to work hard to get his basic needs fulfilled. He had to go through thorns and the ground was cursed. This was due to a spiritual death, not a physical one. The same spiritual death many of my African American brothers and sisters are facing today. A type of spiritual death that keeps you toiling to have your basic needs fulfilled. The water, food, and shelter that is provided to African American communities is heavily controlled by the American government. This is on purpose, as control over your basic needs gives them the ability to give you just enough to keep you in a scarcity mindset. If you do not have sovereignty over yourself, then you don't have sovereignty over your basic needs, resources, or choices. This is why I have a strong opposition to welfare. Additionally, giving them control over your food and water gives them the ability to put whatever chemicals they want in your food and water. These chemicals are used to keep you fat and sick and even cause illiteracy in your melanated children. I'll have to do another video on the poisoning of the food and water put into African American communities and how it affects the people it is intended to affect. There is a plethora of tactics used by the oppressors to keep you ignorant and separated, because they know that it is knowledge that will liberate you, not the material items they are selling to you as success. Money will not liberate you. You cannot buy your way to self-actualization, nor can you buy crown chakra activation. Yes, you can buy a college degree, but this is not the kind of knowledge that liberates. This is the kind of knowledge that teaches you how to be a good slave and go to work for a boss. This is why promoting college and college degrees to melanated children as a means of liberation from oppression is a trick. Even with the degree, you will surely work harder in your career than your Caucasian counterparts and likely get paid less for doing more work. It will be harder for you to climb the corporate ladder. Again, this is by design, not by coincidence. The kind of knowledge I'm speaking of comes from the Most High God, presented within us all. It is the knowledge that liberates a person through the transformation of the mind and the purification of the soul. So you see, that liberation has nothing to do with how much money you have or designer bags. This is a trick sold to you from the oppressors. That is not who you are. Energetic sovereignty is to be free from energetic bondage. I am not promoting a victim mindset here. We have full control over who we are and what we decide to give our power to. I will go over that in more detail toward the end of this video. So I just want to clarify, I am not promoting a victim mindset and saying that everything is the oppressor's fault. They do have a lot of tricks and tactics that they use against African Americans. However, I truly believe that African Americans have the power to overcome their deception by simply using their God-given knowledge and activating the crown chakra. Okay? So yeah, no victim mentality. I do not promote that. But I would be lying if I said that Caucasians and Asians were completely innocent and they're not using tactics to keep African Americans and melanated people across the globe in a low vibrational state. That would be a lie. That's not victim mindset. That's just the truth. Energetic sovereignty is to be free from energetic bondage. It is the ability to govern oneself and one's own actions. I am not telling you to make yourself your own God. I am saying that God is within you. If God is within you, then you hold infinite knowledge and possibility. You just have been kept from accessing it. All the answers you need are within you if you are willing to leave your comfort zone to access it. You must first go through the wilderness of life to have your mind transformed. This is why God had the Israelites in the wilderness for 40 years. They went in circles for 40 years. It is not about the length of the journey that God was concerned with. He was trying to transform their minds. It is only once their minds were transformed that they could enter the land filled with milk and honey. Otherwise, they would waste the blessing being in a lack mindset. When you pray for something, God, being the great Father that He is, prepares you for the blessing first before He gives it to you, so that you know how to manage it and keep it and not let it go to waste. This is also true for you all. You can only enter the promised land, which is a state of mind, after renewing your minds. You must be transformed from a slave mindset to an abundance mindset. Notice that the Israelites were slaves in Egypt before. Then they went through the wilderness to have their minds transformed, and then they were able to go into the promised land. They can't go from being slaves straight to the promised land. They would waste the blessing. This mindset change and transformation only comes by going through the wilderness, which is change, hermiting, fasting, healing, and purifying. All of these processes are incredibly difficult, and most refuse the changes, so they stay in a death, hell-like reality. Notice, even in your Bible, when God could not renew the minds of the elders, they could not enter the promised land. Only the young ones were permitted to enter the promised land because it is truly easier to change the minds of children and young adults than it is to change the mind of an elder who is set in their ways. God does not waste His time with everyone. He will surely give you a way to a reprobate mind and leave you in the hell on earth experience that you've actively chosen to stay in. To experience spiritual sovereignty means that you govern your choices, and your choices is not influenced by outside circumstances. Spiritual sovereignty means you've reached a place of emotional equanimity. This means that your emotions are not guiding your choices and actions. You learn to respond instead of react. You are not easily triggered. You don't make choices purely based off of the emotions of the heart, nor the conditioning and programming of the mind. Instead, you become a stoic person, tempering the mind and the heart so that your choices and decisions are free from emotional attachment, which can cause a disruption in proper discernment. So you see, it is imperative for the oppressors to keep you from realizing your own spiritual sovereignty through self-actualization, because then they will lose their control over your mind and the choices that you make. This means that they will never tell you your true identity, because they need to keep you in a place of low self-esteem, which brings me into my last point: authenticity. You can only be authentic when you know yourself. If you do not know yourself, you will identify as whatever I tell you that you are. Additionally, you will try to fit the social, economic, and beauty standards of the oppressors instead of embracing your own. Your sense of success becomes shaped by whiteness. Anything associated with melanin and melanated futures becomes repulsive to you. You surround yourself with white, Hispanic, and/or Asian people to give yourself a sense of belonging. You no longer have a desire to have the same sense of belonging with people that look like you, because you have been conditioned to see them and yourself as unworthy, poor, and low class. Socially, we are different than the other nations. Until recently, African Americans had a strong sense of family. Even throughout slavery, we married, and we married young, even younger than the oppressors. In the 1900s, most African Americans married right after high school, not college. Most white Americans married after college. They told African Americans that early marriage and teenage pregnancy was bad, but this is how our ancestors operated, and they were happy. We are a fertile people, and we make huge families because we marry so young and start having children young. We were conditioned to see that as a bad thing. You were told that you should wait and get a college education first and work to make money before starting a family. By that time, you are 30 years old, lonely, and have separated yourself from family and friends because you've worked hard as a slave to achieve the American dream that was sold to you. Economically, we are different than the other nations. White power structures have taught you that wealth and abundance is defined by how much money you have and how many material things you possess. This is a lie. Wealth is and always has been defined by how much land and cattle you have. What do you have to pass on to the next generation? To be abundant in the eyes of Most High is to reproduce. How can you give anything to the next generation if there's no next generation to give to? It is an abomination to God to not have children. It is an abomination to God to fall into the ideology of feminism, working hard for the American dream, a career, a house, etc., but not have children. After the flood, God's command to Noah was to increase and multiply on the earth and become many on it and to be a blessing on it. Jubilees 6:5. God's command to us today is still to marry young and reproduce starting young. Do not pray for a house from God for yourself when you haven't given him children to be a blessing on the earth. He will not give you a house for your own selfish reasons and desires. To have a family is to be blessed. To have children is to be blessed. To have a spouse is to be blessed. To waste your youth on whoredom is foolish and brings about a multitude of curses. To waste your youth on chasing money and material gain is foolish and brings about curses. If you decide to bring God children, do it the right way under him and his laws, which is to do it in marriage. Our ancestors lived a long time in this country, having little to no money, but being rich in family, values, and integrity. You have been conditioned to see yourself as less than so that you will chase them and their material possessions for a sense of worth. I am not promoting the idea that we are supposed to be broke. I believe that we are rich and abundant by nature, especially after purification and healing. However, it is difficult for one to see the worth within themselves when they are defining it by material possessions. This means that you'll only love yourself when you have on the Gucci shirt, when you drive the luxury car, and when you have the non-black spouse. This is a false sense of confidence. It is a lie, because if I take the designer purse, car, or non-black spouse away, you feel worthless. This means that the love you have for yourself is based on these conditions, and you don't love yourself unconditionally, which is the only type of love that exists. Saying that you only love yourself and see yourself as beautiful when your hair is straightened and your shoes are Jordans is a false sense of self-worth, and it is not love at all. You should love yourself completely in your authentic state. If someone were to take away the spouse, the car, the wigs, and the designer bags, who would you be? And would you be happy with yourself? Advertising is another tactic they use to shape the way you see yourself and control your thoughts and choices. The white power structure knows that melanated beings have been robbed of their identity and self-esteem. So I could advertise trash to you as luxury, and you'll want to buy it to make yourself feel worthy and luxurious. They pay all of your favorite idols, that being singers, rappers, actors, and Instagram influencers, to wear these trashy things and promote them as luxury and make them look cool. You, being the consumer, are then conditioned to associate the trash being presented to you as luxury as something worthy. You think to yourself, I need this thing in order to be cool, to be accepted, to be a part, and to feel worthy. So you spend all the money you have, or most of it, on that thing. You will do anything to get it. They're basically telling you what to desire, which is guiding your choices. You don't even have control over your own desires at this point. You don't know what you want or who you are. You seem to only crave what is presented to you as worthy, and it never has anything to do with you. Everything that they tell you to desire seems to be the opposite of everything that you are. Straight hair, white women, fast food, especially pork, etc. The list goes on and on. The point is to bring you as far as possible from your authenticity and get you to desire everything that you are not. This is why female rappers are paid well to promote hair weaves, heavy makeup, long eyelashes, long nails, revealing clothing, and designer bags to Black women. This is why rappers and those who are considered successful in a worldly sense is paid heavily to promote interracial marriage, whoredom, and foolishness to Black men. This is why Black women idolize material things and hair weaves. This is why Black men idolize white, Asian, and Hispanic women. You have all been conditioned to do that. And in the end, all of these idols do two things: rob you of your authenticity and identity, and rob you of your finances. You have trouble keeping money within your families and communities because you have been conditioned to spend it all on foreign weaves, cars, ridiculously long nails, and foreign women. You have been conditioned to be the divesting race while investing in all other races. What would you be without the external influences? Who would you marry if you allowed true love to guide your choices over ego? How would you wear your hair if you let confidence determine how you presented yourself to the outside world instead of insecurity? The desire to be accepted is strong, so strong to the point where you will stay in a toxic relationship with someone who fits the physical and social beauty standards of what a beautiful woman should be and look like, instead of seeking a healthy relationship with reciprocity. Additionally, social acceptance will have you out here thinking that every hair texture is beautiful except for the hair texture that naturally grows out of your own head. The way to abundance is not to chase material things, approval from white people, or surrounding yourself with white people. Instead, it is to become whole within, loving yourself unconditionally to the point where your confidence is unshakable. You can walk in a room full of white, Asian, and or Hispanic people as your full, Afrocentric, authentic self and feel like the most beautiful person in the room. To feel anything less is a giving away of your life force energy from your solar plexus chakra. When you walk around praising white features and white skin as beautiful to the point where you try to look like it yourself and even desire to only produce children that look as close to that as possible, you are feeding into white supremacy and your own demise. You are giving your power away in a big way and feeding their egos. This is an energetic exchange that leaves them feeling superior and you feeling inferior. The answer is not to try to be like them. The answer is simply to be yourself and not care about what anyone thinks. Wear your afro because it is you. Truly, they cannot take your confidence unless you let them. A lot of melanated people feel like they simply cannot walk out with their natural hair in its natural state because it is not socially acceptable. Well, who made that rule? It is not a law. The most beautiful black woman is not a light-skinned black woman. It is an authentic black woman, no matter what complexion her skin is. Only you have said that it is unacceptable to go out with your natural hair because you care too much about what others think of you. So you have conformed to their beauty, economic, and social standards. You have completely thrown away your own identity to fit more into theirs for the sake of acceptance. You have done yourself a real disservice here, my friends. Take off the old identity given to you by the oppressors and wear yourself. Wear your hair and your natural skin. Be you. Love yourself enough to surround yourself with people that look like you and feel rich instead of feeling like you must surround yourself with white people to feel rich. In conclusion, if you ever put yourself in the forefront as a sovereign being with full confidence, you can't be controlled. You will not be easily tempted to spend $500 to $1,000 on a wig if you see yourself as beautiful and worthy. I assure you that your natural hair and your melanin is worth so much more. You will not be easily tempted into lust and fornication if you see yourself as worthy and didn't freely give yourself to anyone. You must know your worth. You must have confidence. You must know who you are. I declare and decree that you have the power from within to free yourself. You do not need an external savior. You are the savior of your own soul. Truly, I tell you that your liberation does not lie in the hands of a white woman or a white man, but it lies within your own. That is all I have for you all today. Thank you so much for listening. Peace and love, everyone. Bye now.